Not as yet. All right. So, David Hawke. All right. David, welcome. Thank you very much indeed for joining us this afternoon. Let me just turn to your item here. So you're here representing the Halswell Residents Association. So you've got 5 minutes to present your submission this afternoon. Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much. So kia ora and thanks for having us along. So on my left is John Bennett, our association chairman, and I'm David Hawke, the secretary. And thanks for the opportunity to present to you today. So I guess I should begin by noting the onslaught of local authority consultations we've had to work with in the past few months. It's meant a huge amount of work for us as a volunteer organisation. I'd have to say that some of that work has been completely futile because of either incorrect or incomplete information in City Council documentation. So we're going to emphasise 2 themes today. So one of them is to pick up flaws in your development contribution documentation. The second is to look at the argument that we put in our submission about spending development contributions in the general community from which they've been collected. And it was interesting hearing the Halswell Hornby Riccarton Community Board talking to you about that just a few moments ago. So in terms of the documentation flaws, there's going to be a bit of quoting here. So on page 3 of our written submission, we said, quote, "Although we see the logic of a Christchurch metropolitan charge for public transport, this assumes that new developments are structured so that they have access to public transport and active transport. Yet there is virtually no access to public transport in these areas of Halswell, which is the arc east to northeast from, if you know Halswell, Murphy's Road, through Country Palm, Sabies Road, Glover's Road, and through beyond Sutherland's Road. That's a massive catchment, absolutely massive. Similarly, no easy access to active transport infrastructure, such as cycleways in those new areas around Halswell." The staff response, which is page 15 of your attachment A, states, and again I quote, "There are a number of bus routes currently serving the Halswell area. Lincoln Road, Halswell Road is a key public transport corridor with a number of capital projects planned and being delivered along it. These include, but are not limited to," and the 3 given, and then reference to public transport funding. Our point is that these new developments cannot access the infrastructure for which the developers have been levied. And your staff response is either obfuscation or you haven't funded the consultation process properly for them to give a detailed, in-depth response. In terms of active transport, reference is then made to Quarryman's Trail and the Southern Motorway Cycleway. But again, this huge swathe of people can't access that really important infrastructure. And then finally, reference is made to Quarryman's Trail connections in the staff response. But we've yet to receive an answer to our question about what these are, where they're being located, and the level of provision. We asked for that months ago. We could rebut pretty much every one of your staff responses similarly. We don't have time in 5 minutes. But what we would say is, other than needing to fund the consultation properly, as the people making the final decisions, we want you to dig deeper in your final decisions and don't just take the staff responses at face value. In terms of spending development contributions in the general community from which they've been collected, I guess we're running a bit tight on time. But we'd make the point that land for recreation in Halswell has not come willingly. The exception is the area opposite Night Stream School, right down at the western end of Halswell. And this land came largely as a response of a socially responsible developer. City Council has either inherited the land that we use in Halswell for recreation from Paparoa County, or there has been a big fight. Halswell Domain Extension, Halswell Quarry Park, more recently 66 Quaves Road. Every time a fight. Thanks for listening. Kia ora.
Thank you very much. And there is time for a question, if there are any questions. Tim.
And the new developments, you have, huge new developments. Do you think the roading is sufficient? Because I believe ECAN's policy is between 400 and 500 metres to walk no further than that to get a bus. Do you think buses would travel very easily through most of those new developments?
That's an interesting question. In principle, yes, they would, but you can't have buses wandering all over the place. And so if you go to the urban development strategy, which council has used, it talked about public transport corridors, but the new developments are not on public transport corridors, and they've been designed that way. And so the issue really goes back to district plan in many respects.
And look, just one final one. Have you seen any facility for park and ride?
It's an interesting one. Park and ride, there are no facilities for park and ride. People are just doing it on an ad hoc basis. So Halswell Bowling Club is a good park and ride spot, but it's not on the books. And there's areas along by the Longhurst Medical Centre which people are driving from out in Selwyn, parking there and driving in, and bussing in. So really the issue there, and it comes back to that land question, is for park and ride, it needs space. And we haven't got any.
Yeah. So thank you very much. Cheers.
Thanks, Tim.
All right. Thank you very much indeed. Thanks for taking the time to come along and speak to the submission this afternoon. Thank you.
Okay, thank you.
All right. So